Hey everyone, it's Keeley here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where we're going to go and make the second of the 2 Halloween soaps that I have on offer for this year. And today we're going to go and make Witch's Brew. So once again, I have made a little Halloween themed gnome and I'm going to show you how I make my little witches, but it's the inside of this soap that I was so super happy with. I will admit, when I made the little gnomes, I really did prefer the wizard, but when I cut open the Witch's Brew soap, I was absolutely blown away and it very quickly became my favorite of the 2. So let's go and see first of all how I make the little witches, and then we'll get on to making that Witch's Brew. Let's go. All right, so as you can see, I've already made quite a few of my witches and I just have 2 more left to do. So I'm going to show you how I've been making them. I have got some really bright green soap dough here. I made it using some Lime Spider soap dough, my Micro Obsession one, plus adding in some of the neon green pigment just to get it to really pop. And as I do with all of my gnomes, I'm going to weigh out the section for the body, and I'm going to be using 6 grams, which I've just found is the perfect amount for doing my little gnomes with. So that's just a tiny bit too much. That's perfect. So we've got the body for 1. Let's grab a second one here. As I say in my videos, I do tend to work so I'm doing several at a time. It just helps me getting them sort of in a, looking continuous, about roughly the same as well. Now to do the arms, I'm just breaking off another piece and I'm aiming for about 1/2 gram here. And I usually find that is enough to make the 2 arms. So there's 1 piece. And there is the second piece there. Oh, and before I put that away, we need some for the band on the hat. I'm just going to weigh out a piece. It's about 1.2 grams. I found that that gives me more than enough to do a band around the hat. I like to have my bands just a little bit bigger than I do need them. All right, so we've got all of the pieces of green that I'm going to need. All right, so with the green, with those little 1/2 gram ones, all I'm going to do is roll them out into a little bit of a sausage shape to get the arms. And I always do my arms like this to get them almost symmetrical looking. When I try and do individual arms, one always ends up longer than the other or thicker than the other. So I just find this the easiest way. Once I've got that so far out, I'm going to cut it, and that gives me my 2 arms for 1. Let's grab the other one, do the same thing, roll it out into that nice little sausage shape. Once I'm happy with the consistency, just going to chop it in half and pop it to one side. Now with the other piece, that was about 1.2, I'm just going to roll that out into a really thin, long sausage, and this is going to be the band for the hats. All right, so we've got the 2 bands rolled out, and I do actually roll them up separately because once this gets too long, it starts, flipping up all over the place like it used to do when you played with Play-Doh. So just doing them individually really helps keep control. Now with these pieces here, I'm just going to start by rolling them into a ball. And once we've got that ball shape, as I do whenever I make my little gnomes, I'm going to get it in my palm of my hand and then use my fingers just to get that conical shape for my gnome. And it doesn't matter if it's not a perfect conical shape either, because you can kind of manipulate it. What I tend to do is squish mine in from the sides to keep it within the sort of right width for my soap. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of manipulating where the body is to get a nice round body. And then with my little witches, I decided I wanted to put a little tilt on the hats. We're going to do that one and then grab the second one. I have a fly in my shop and it's really bothering me now. He's not disappeared. All right, so again, just squishing it down, getting the sort of shape that I want, and then I'm going to just make the hat just a little bit more pointy. I don't make them too pointy because it does play havoc with wrapping them, but I'm going to just then bend that over. So we've got all of our green pieces. All right, so now that we've got all the green embellishments, we're going to move on to doing the hands and the nose. So for the hands, like I always do, I'm just going to break off 2 little pieces, roll them into a ball shape. Now with these ones, normally I keep the hands quite small, but for these, because there's not much else on them, I am making them just that little bit larger than what I normally do. That one's probably a bit too small, so let's grab that. So I need a total of 4 little hands to make our 2 witches. All right, and here is the last of the hands. Now we're going to make the nose. Now normally when I make the noses for my gnomes, I make them round and squished, but that's not what a witch's nose is. So I've just broken myself off a piece. That's probably way too much. But what I'm going to do is just kind of roll it into a ball and then out into a bit of a sausage shape at one end, so we're getting that little bit of a cone. It's going to be so hard to see because these bits are just so fiddly. But I am then just going to slightly bend the tip over and we end up with like a little witchy nose. I know it's so hard to see when the parts are so small, but once it's on the little witch, you'll be able to see it better. So I'm just going to make another one here. So again, I've just rolled it into a ball, rolling that tip into a point, making that cone, and then I'm just kind of bending that tip down to get that witch's pointed nose. All right, there's that piece. Now I've got 2 more embellishments. Now the one embellishment I have already made, and it's this little bat. And to make those, I took this little extruder disc tool, which I've had from Off Wickedly Goods, and I pushed some soap dough into the space, and then I pushed the resulting shape out of the disc to give me these little bats. Now I made them all up at the same time because they do need a little bit of drying in between to be able to get them out, so it was just quicker and easier to do them off camera, but it's such an easy process. It's very similar to when I've used the sprinkle sheets to do those. And then the other one is to make the hair, and what I've got is my little extruder tool, and I've got one of the discs that actually come with the clay extruder. Let's get that bit of soap dough out. It's just got lots of little holes in the bottom of it, and all I'm going to do, I've got some black soap dough in there. I'm going to extrude some of this out. Don't need too much because we only need enough to make our 2 witches here. Cut them off, and then to make the hair or the little plaits, I'm going to take just 3 strands of the black and then just twist them together. It was too fiddly to actually plait them, but I figured when you actually just twist them together, you can get away with them looking like plaits. So we've got one, let's do another one. So again, just twisting. You have to be quite gentle with it, and you have to do it while the soap dough is fairly fresh. You don't want it to dry, otherwise it breaks like that. So we've got those. Let me put these bits of soap dough away. Right, and then to do the hair, I'm just actually going to trim it up now. We're going to just trim probably, it's about 1 centimetre to, it's not even 1.5 centimetres. It is literally about 1 centimetre. And I make sure to do myself extra so I can pick out the really good bits of the twists. So we've got those. Now we've got all that, it is time to start putting them together. Look, I've put my fingernail mark in there. Let's smooth that back out. So we've got the body of one of our witches, and I'm going to pick up a bit of the plait, and I'm just going to put them on the side of the face. You have to use a little bit of imagination on where you actually want the plaits to sit at this point. It's a bit harder than when you put beards onto the little male gnomes, but I'm going to go there. I am then going to grab, I know you can't see what I'm doing, it's off screen, but I have got a skewer, and I've just dipped it in the water, and I've got the flat end here. And I'm going to poke a hole, which is where my nose is going to go. And I'm doing it this way because I'm not using that sort of flat round nose. This way I can actually push the nose into the soap and know that it's going to hold. You can see we've got that tiny little crooked nose on our little witch. Next, we're going to add on our arms. So I'm just going to grab one of those, come up to the side and kind of push it on, and I try and, smooth it is the word I'm after, into the soap dough I've already got there. That just helps with it sticking. And then I'm going to grab my other arm, go for roughly the same. Again, just smoothing it in to there, and she's kind of just holding her hair down in place. We're going to pop a couple of little hands onto the bottom. As I said, I'm using slightly bigger hands than I usually do because there's nothing in here, so I just wanted to kind of fill that area in a bit more. But like when I do my wizard and stuff that you would have seen, the hands were much smaller because they were holding onto a wand. Now with the hat, I'm just going to grab one of those long pieces, come around the back. I start by pushing it on to get it to stick, and then I'm kind of just folding it round, and I still try and make that little, hook over the nose there just to give it a little bit of character. Come round, break it off at the back, and then I just smooth that join in place to make it harder to see where that band starts. Just making sure everything is in place, covering up all those extra little bits there. Really happy with how that's looking. So now I'm just going to grab my brush with a bit of water on, pop that on there because I made my bats so much earlier and they've dried out a bit. I just want them to stick to the hat properly. And there is our little witch. She's got her little hooked nose. I know they're so difficult to see when they're so small in the hand, but they are so super cute. So we have just this one more to make, and then we can get on with making the soap. So I'm ready to jump in and start making this soap, and it's going to be the first quite complicated one that I've made in a few years. Yes, I've made a couple of the gnomes and stuff like that, but I haven't done anything too complicated for a while. My mind just has not been able to cope with it. So I'm really hoping I'm going to be able to pull this one off. We'll see how things go. I've just put my lye water into my oils, and I'm going to give it a really light mix until we come to emulsion, because I have a few layer things that I want to do in this soap. Right, that is going to do for that. Now, so that I don't over pour into my next lot of cups, I'm going to pour some of this off. It just gives me better control, and then whatever I don't use, I can put back into the big bucket here. I also actually want to mix this bit up just a little bit more, so let's do that. All right, that's a bit better. We're at a bit more of the beginning of a trace on that one. I'm just going to pop that in there for now. Now, first up, what I'm going to do is split out for these colors. I have a few neons in here. I have Alizarian, I think it's called. And then in this one, I have, actually this isn't a neon, this is Trial by Fire. And this one is a neon yellow. I don't know what they call it. Let's have a look. Lemon Glacier is what it's called. Look, I've got a bit of a false trace going in there. Let's give that a bit of a mix, bring it back together. It's just starting to separate out. I'm going to pour a bit more into that one there. Just going to use my little stainless spoon here and give these a really good mix. I'm going to see if I can actually get my stick blender in here to make it just a little bit easier. And while I'm doing it, I also have some neon green in here, and I also have some elusive. Just going to split that into these cups. I don't need a lot, so that should do. I'll keep that just in case. No, my cups are too small. I'm gonna have to keep hand stirring. Oh well. Now I'm not gonna put any scent into these colors I've just mixed because I don't want, I know my scent can sometimes make my soap a little bit fluid, and I actually want this to set up quickly so we can get on with our soaping adventure. But what I wanna do is kind of make a little bit of a fire in the bottom here, so I really didn't want to have too much soap. Hopefully I didn't make too much. I'm just going to randomly pour that through the bottom, let it set up for a bit, and then we'll just texture it. This is going to be a messy soap. I can already tell just by what's going on my bench here. But anyhow, let's get these greens mixed up. Now I really do need these ones to be thicker. So I'm wondering, I was using these cups just to, because they were thinner, but I am actually wondering if I go and get some of my jugs to put them in so that I can actually blend them up to the right thickness. Because I know my stick blender fits in these just. So let's pour that one in there. And then we have this darker green. In fact, there's not going to be enough in there at all, but we're going to wing it. We're going to see what happens. Right, so we're going to pop our greens into a piping bag. They are still quite runny, but like I said, it's been a while since I've done one this sort of complex, so sometimes I don't always think about the logistics of making them. So we'll just see how things go, but I really need to get these Halloween soaps done. I am almost gonna miss the mark if I don't. It's just been so hard, and I will admit this is the first year in a couple of years where I've actually been excited to make the Halloween soaps. Last year, because I wasn't really feeling it, you know, I was in that sort of state where I wasn't being as creative as what I could be. We'd also just moved house, and I probably should have thought about doing Halloween before we moved, but we'd just moved house, and I was, you know, trying to get the designs up and out. And when I sit there and look at what I put out last year, it's no wonder they didn't really sell. I can see that they weren't exactly my best work, and I wasn't excited for them. But this year I'm really, really excited for these Halloween soaps. So hopefully everyone will like them. Let's get this mess cleared up. This is taking its time to harden up. It's always the way, whenever you want soap to thicken up, it stays fluid like this. And when you want it to stay fluid, it thickens. You really can't win. What are we gonna do? I know people do say that they have success when they spray the tops. It does put a little bit of film. I've just sprayed that with some rubbing alcohol. So I'll just leave that sit for a couple of minutes and see if we can get that to firm up so I can make some little spoon dips and make it look like fire. Well, this soap is proving to be really, really stubborn. It is only just starting to get to a point where I can add a little bit of texture into it, but this is starting to set up. So is my other pot. So this one's just gonna have to do as I can do with it. It's starting to get that sort of shape. But what I will do, because rather than gonna do the whole lot, I have this little cauldron here. I use the I Dream in Soap extruder disc tool to create this one, and I actually created my soap dough so that I put it into a PVC pipe so it was round, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, getting it to the right size and everything. It made it so much easier. Yep, that's the right way. And then I was able to extrude these big cauldrons. Okay, so that's now sitting in the fire. Let's just texture the rest of this around it. I just want it to look like fire all around. And no, I didn't quite want it in the center of my mold. So I know it's not centered. And that was because I didn't want like the witch sitting on top of the cauldron. So I did just want to pop it off to that one side. Get that moving around. I think that is the best I'm going to be able to get for this color here. It's actually looking pretty gross. But anyhow, that's in there. What I'm now going to do is grab my piping bag, which I've got both of those greens in, and on it I have got like a closed star tip. I'm just going to squeeze that down, and the idea will be just to put this on top of the cauldron. I don't mind if it squirts over the edge. I want it to look like, once we've got the soap cut, that it's got some green stuff bubbling out of the top here. Hopefully I did save myself enough and not too much. Oh, it's looking good. All right, I've still got a bit in here, so just fill in this end piece and just gonna go over a few more bits randomly where it looks like it could do with just a little bit more. And that will make all the bars look just slightly different. No more messing around. Let's get this color. Luckily, the fragrance oil will loosen this up. I say, hopefully. Anyway, I'm going to pour some of this off into this silver, like so. Now, because this was thickening up, I actually mixed my colour up separately into some oil there. I have some Extravagance purple, no, not Extravagance, that's gold, Eminence purple, and then I mixed in some neon purple and neon pink just to try and get a really nice bright purple colour. I added some soap into this pot for two reasons. One, it makes it a bit easier to scrape out, and then whatever I can't scrape out will then become soap and make this actually easier to clean the pot tomorrow. All right, so I've got as much of that out as possible. I can't afford to mess around much more with getting that colour out of there. Let's give that a good stir. Could really do with mixing that in with the stick blender, but it's not going to work. Oh well. All right, what I'm going to do is start pouring my fragrance in. So pour some into the silver. Purple all up the spatula here. Give that a bit of a stir. I'm going to pour the rest into my purple. Give that a stir, and then I'm going to do a in the pot swirl with that grey into the purple, and then pour it on in there, and hopefully this is all going to go smoothly. Right, well that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Oh, I didn't think I was going to get that in time, but this time around the fragrance oil, it did thin it out a little bit, but not as much as I really wanted it to, but I was able to give it a really good knockdown. So hopefully we've filled up the gap between where the top of the cauldron is and the side of the mold. Now what I've just done is I've put some silver biodegradable glitter across the top, and now I'm going to put some tree green just to tie in the silver hopeful swirl that was added to the purple, and also tie in that green from off the cauldron. So that's that. And then I also have some tiny little biodegradable stars. There are not many of these left, so we'll sprinkle a few of these onto the top as well. Try and not get them in the middle because that's where the witch is going to sit, and try not to throw them all over the bench either because I don't have many. Oh, these gloves are in the way. All right, so I've got my little witches, but the first thing I'm going to do, as I always do, is get my trusty little stainless steel ruler and just put some marks across the top of the soap. And this lets me know where to put my little embeds here. And then I think I actually need to stop talking for a bit. I actually bit my tongue while eating lunch yesterday, and it's a little bit swollen, and I keep catching it, and it's making me talk funny. So I'm going to get these little witches on, and when I've done that, I'll bring you in for a closer look. Okay, Witch's Brew is now all done and in the mold. I am so super happy with how this one has come up. I honestly can't believe it has taken me this long to do gnomes in Halloween theme. They are so super cute. You know, I always do the Christmas ones, and I've done a few different ones this year as well, but I had to try my hand at these Halloween ones. Really hoping that we don't have any air pockets sitting around that cauldron, but there is only one way to find out. We're going to leave it sit overnight, and we'll be back shortly and we'll take a look at the inside. Okay, it is time to cut into the Witch's Brew soap, and I'm super pleased to say that is the side where the little cauldron is the closest, and it looks like all the soap went down the side. So hopefully we don't actually have any air bubbles around the cauldron piping. Oh, this one is smelling so good. It's a fragrance oil I've had in my candle range for so long and really like it, and it is quite a popular seller. And then I just decided one day to make some little rays of sunshine with it, and I absolutely oh my goodness I absolutely loved how it came out in the soap, and now I keep making soaps with this fragrance, and it just smells so fun. I think it's perfect. Wait until you see inside of this. I'm using the cut lines I've got on the top as a bit of a guide as to where to cut, as well as using my little block stop to make sure I'm getting good sizes. Oh, but that could not have worked out any better if I had tried. I love how that looks like it's bubbling up and out, and then all that sort of smoke wafting out from the cauldron. I am absolutely in love with that. So happy, even though I couldn't get the fire to get the real little curves and peaks. I'm absolutely in love with this design. Let's get through this one, just being very careful not to chop any of the hats and hands, the nose as well. Oh, look, we've got a tiny little air pocket, but that's going to be easily fixed. Once I trim some of the purple off, I'll be able to fill that air pocket up and you won't even know. I am loving this soap. As I said, it's the first kind of real intricate one I've done for a while. Even though I've done a couple that have got piping on and things like that, I haven't really done too much design-wise on the inside of the soaps. And this one is just come up so good. Really like it. And those little witches, because normally we put like little round noses on the onto our little gnomes, but I love them with the little pointy nose. But now that I've done, well, the little gnomes that I've done, so we've now done Halloween, I've done Christmas for quite a while, and this year I also did some Valentine's ones and some St. Patrick ones. Now I'll have to have a think about what other types of gnomes, and don't worry, there will be at least one gnome in the Christmas collection as well, because I know so many people love them, and the little gnome soaps sell super fast whenever I do them. So these soaps are going to head off to the cure rack, and probably by the time you see this video they will already be available, because I have a little backlog of videos to go out. I do hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I created the Witch's Brew soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. And until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you then. Bye.